Boy, that looks good. Too bad it doesn't show up in the camera. Anyway, I got this on. Put my dash or my glove box in. Obviously, you can see there's a crack in it. I'm not gonna put really fancy pieces in here because this is not a really fancy truck right now. I got my brake booster changed out, and I found out a little issue. I will explain that in a sec. I know you can't see it, but the ductwork that goes over to the passenger side defrost cannot be put in after the heater box is fully bolted down. I found out that the hard way. I had to loosen it up, slide it back as far as I could without taking all the bolts completely all the way off. Wedge it in there, got it in there, and then tightened everything back up again. The driver's side one is this guy. It sits in there kind of like that, you know, the flex on the bottom. I take that out because I had to take the pivot bolt rod or whatever you want to call it for the brake pedal itself. I had to take that all the way out because that was a little bit stiff and rusty. So I had to take that loose. Otherwise, yeah, looking beautiful right now. So this is the old one that I pulled out last night. And it's this hole is what's different. There's two things that are different about it. I'll get a little closer. There we go. The 90 part that I have is just straight. It's centered on this. I don't think that offset is going to make enough difference to notice. And here comes Aspen. She's got to make her appearance. Looks like she's been crawling in something dirty. Typical cat. But the size of this hole, don't show us your butt, cat. Get out of here. The size of this hole is bigger than it was with the 90. So I have to find a different bolt. I just have it kind of just thrown in here for now, but this is that's the bolt I'm talking about. And it's just in there just so this isn't all floppy. I've thrown away dozens and dozens of those things over the years that I've taken stuff apart. Didn't realize that they were different sizes. Never had to pay attention to that. So hopefully I'll just have to go to the salvage yard and find something, you know, late 80s. It's a little smaller because it's the hole in that part that's different. I'll grab that. I might even grab the brake pedal itself, depending on how tough it looks like it is to get out. Just in case, for some odd reason, the ratios of everything, that little bit of an offset in that other rod is enough to make a difference. I don't think it would be, but if it's easy to grab, I'm going to grab it. I looked through all my other parts. I don't have anything 80s wise for those things laying around, at least that I know of anyway, and I looked all over the place. So, will it show up? Yeah, it kind of does. So, I just found out, believe it or not, there are two different sizes of these. The glove box latch piece. Because there's actually a bit of an angle to them. They kind of curve a little bit. They point in. And I was going to put this in there, and I couldn't remember if it pointed in, pointed out. So, I went and I opened up the glove box on my 76. It's a different size. It's about twice as wide. It's almost as wide as the screws are there. I did not know that. Apparently that's a difference. I don't know why that would have to be different, but whatever, it is. So, one more little oddball thing to note about the differences between the early and late 70s. When exactly it changed, I'll assume 74, the 74-75 split was when it changed, because that's when a lot of other stuff changed. That's when the dash changed. So before I can do much more, I should say, maybe before I want to do much more interior as far as pushing wires around and stuff, I need to get my steering column in there. I have decided to go with the tilt just because this is a truck I'm probably gonna have for a while. It's gonna be convenient, blah blah blah. I hate to get rid of a good tilt column, but you know what, it's gonna be my truck for a while yet anyway. So if I knew I was gonna sell it right away, I would leave the other one in. So it needs a good cleaning. Obviously it's kind of rusty. The pivot point is nice and snug. I can't demonstrate that with one hand, but it is. The bad thing is obviously the shift and I've never seen one that rusty the whole way. So I'll just take that out of the other steering column, or a different one. These will clean up. That'll clean up fairly well. So will that. Not going to be perfect, but it's not a perfect truck either. Everything else just needs a good cleaning. I think the horn pad is maybe toast, or it's just been pulled on and it's all coming loose. So I'll just take it apart, clean it up. I got my new key coming in, a new lock cylinder with the right key in it. The only bad part is there's this little hood that covers, you know, the gear indicator. That's gone. As far as I know, that's pretty much the same on all the tilt column 70s and 80s and stuff. So I just have to go find one. And I know that's simple enough to put on after the fact. So once I get it cleaned up, get it put in there, boom, done. I can slap that at any time. And another reason why I decided to do this now, before I get too deep into the wires, is just so I know what set of connections I hook to. Because tilt columns, and this is a 78 also. Yeah, it came out of a 78. So the connections are different to the rest of the harness for this versus a non-tilt column, or at least the 73 that was in there. And I just got to go through, make sure it all works, make sure the switch itself feels like it functions, and all that other jazz. This joint up here feels nice and tight. There's only just there's enough slop to feel. That's probably about as good as they're going to get, because they were never 100% non-slop anyway. So yeah, that's the next step. Get this done, get this bolted in, and then I can start shoving wires through. That is in there. That was more of a fight than I was expecting. And I screwed up, and it's a screw up that I even know better. So I even did a video about these things. So anyway, whenever they started putting tilt columns in 78, this part, oh, there we go, now I can see better. This part of the dash is wider to account for if you had the tilt column, you know, it's just a wider column. Well, I gapped that out, and part of that is because initially I wasn't thinking about putting this tilt in until I was down the road a little ways with all my other ideas. So I had to do a little rearranging. So in order to get this is the push rod that goes to the actual ignition switch. Non-tilt column, the switch is way up in here. Tilts are down farther. So I had to cut that open to get that to work right. And then this plastic piece wasn't fitting because the shaft of the column is wider. So I had to trim and cut and got the heat gun out, mushed it around, and I made it fit. So it ain't pretty, but for what this project is, that's going to work out just fine. In addition, that's on the bottom. Whatever little indiscrepancies there are down there, no one's going to see anyway unless they're upside down in here looking up, and that's probably only going to be me. So I got that in. I don't have my turn signal lever in yet because I want to put cruise control in, and the cruise control switch that was with this column was all ugly and it didn't work right, and the wires were chewed up, so I didn't put it back in for now. And if I do that, which I want cruise control, I'll have to go see if I can find a 90-ish and pull those parts out. But I think I have enough of this put together now to the point where I can start pushing wires in here and making all that fit right. Oh, one other thing I should mention. So the shift lever is shorter on this one than other stuff. I would assume because with the tilt, you know, maybe it gets too close to the actual wheel itself, and the wheel is off. I have to get it cleaned up. It's pretty gross. And then the other thing that's different, I know you can't see it, but in here there's a weird little, I don't know, hook thing. And that's different between tilt and non-tilt also. So I cleaned it up, I sanded it down, I got out the good old chrome in a can, sprayed it on there, and actually, you know what, it looks pretty good. Good enough anyway. It looks like stainless steel, really. You know, this is chrome, and you can see some of the pits in there if you look close. But Again, like I say, this is not a restoration. This is a more so mechanical stuff, but since I'm doing some things, if I can make it look a little nicer, I will. So I cleaned that one up as best I could. And there is the dash harness. So I've labeled everything as much as I can. I can figure out where stuff goes. I plugged in all the components, even though obviously I'll be unplugging all of it later. I have a steering column out of a different 90. I don't know what happened to the one that was with this other truck. It seems odd that I would have got rid of it. Can't find it anywhere, so luckily I have this one to kind of compare where wires hook up to and stuff. So there's a couple of I haven't been able to figure it out yet. I'm pretty positive this one goes to the like the parking brake. And then there's this one. I think this is cruise control, which that truck never had, which is why I can't really find a home for it. That's that one. There's these two here. Well, this is probably the light for the ashtray. So I'm going to guess that these two are probably the cigarette lighter. And this one, I have no idea. This maybe if it was a single speaker dash. Maybe? I don't know. So I've got the, worst of it is I have the factory service manual for this only on digits, so I've got to go through, I've got to find my electrical diagram, print out those pages, bring them out here so I know what I'm talking about, and then figure out which wires go where, which ones I have to peel out so I can rearrange. But I think kind of the first thing I'll do is I'll get this whole thing shoved in the hole, get the the bulkhead in, get that connected to the other side, so that way when I do hook a battery up, I turn the switch on, I can start checking stuff. Because like I said before, the word for doing glass, like old glass, you know, slow and steady wins the race. Well, electrical is a little different. You know, for those of you who are old enough to remember, you know, President Reagan was trust but verify when it came to talking with the commies. Well, same kind of thing, only not quite. Just verify. Verify, verify, verify. Whatever it is, once I turn the switch on, make sure I've got power there, and then check things. And then I hook up one wire at a time. I'm not even going to trust myself. I'm going to verify everything, because that's just the way it is. I do have this chunk of radio harness. Well, mostly radio harness anyway. I can't really see where that, because one end is cut. I don't see any cut ends on here where it would have come from. So I don't know for sure, and it kind of doesn't matter because that's not the radio. None of those connections are going to work anyway for me.